All right, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. We're excited to be on the webinar with Serenity Vet. My name is Bruce Truman. We're going to give it about 2 minutes here for people to join, and then we're going to get started with introductions and then some great discussion. If you could please put in the chat, we've got a lot of folks here, put in the chat where you're from. It's always great to hear where everybody's from. And then also, we kind of think we know the answer to this question, but what is your biggest challenge with relief? And you can tell us anything, whatever your challenge is, we'll see that in the chat, and we want to make sure we address your questions. So we'll give it about 1 more minute, folks, and then we're going to get started. Okay, super. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Please put any questions you might have in the chat also. We do like to answer those questions on the live stream. So if you have questions, let us know. I'd like to kick it off just by saying it's the end of the year, right? 2025 has been a tough year. The vet source information just came out yesterday. We have patient visits down again. These are trends we don't want to see, but that's the reality we're dealing with. We also have, as you all know, because you're on this call, operating costs. It seems like everything's going up. Prices are going up. And the AVMA just in their economic report put out an interesting stat that the number of relief veterinarians nearly doubled from the past year. So that's validation that you have a need. And if you're on this call, we're here to learn. You're here to learn. And that's what we're going to focus on today is how can we help you manage relief veterinarians? How can we centralize and streamline this? Because 2026 has to be about operational efficiencies, saving your practice time, and ultimately making your practice more money and helping more pets at the same time. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our expert panelist here. I'd like to start off. Dr. Ciccolini, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, Bruce. My name is Dr. Andrew Ciccolini. I'm a veterinarian, been a veterinarian for about 15 years, co-founder for Serenity Vet Relief Management Platform. Also started my career in the military, worked in private practice, academia, shelter medicine, and throughout that entire time, I've worked as a relief vet as well.
All right, wonderful. Dr. Zach, you're next.
Hey, I'm having a bit of internet issues here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep. Dr. Ivan Zach. I'm a veterinarian entrepreneur in our industry. I've done a couple things, built SmartFlow if you guys used this before. And since then, building urgent care hospitals in US and Canada. That's kind of my primary gig right now.
All right, wonderful. And Sarah?
Yes, hi, my name is Sarah Hall. I am an RVT, worked in small animal medicine before changing to the industry side of things about, I guess 8 years ago now or so. In that time, I worked actually at SmartFlow as well with Dr. Zach, and then worked at IDEX, and now I've been here at Galaxy Vets for the last 4 years, and I'm the Director of Operations here.
All right, thanks everybody. And my name's Bruce Truman. I've been in the industry my entire career, and in particular focus on where is innovation, where are the great ideas, and how do we bring those founders and great ideas to market to help veterinary practices. So I'm really excited and honored to be moderating this session. Dr. Zach, I want to start out with you and talk about the economy. And I just mentioned those numbers, right? Patient visits are down. It's tougher in a veterinary practice now than what it was. And it's indicating that there might be an even greater need for relief veterinarians. So what's your lens or perspective on this, managing the group of practices that you do with Sarah?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the macroeconomic factors are kind of tough for our industry, and I think we met with you a couple of months ago in Salt Lake City, and that's the first time I think that I've heard our industry talking so much about marketing, because we used to live in this world where our profession did not know that their marketing exists. The biggest form of marketing we thought was reminders, not really attracting new clients, and it was always you open the doors and they come, and then you really need to manage the workflow and how do you process the amount of patients. So the world has changed, and now there is scarcity of patients, but also we did not overcome the scarcity of veterinarians that we have, and there's a big shift right now that's happening towards the relief operations for veterinarians. The burnout is still rampant and getting worse, actually, according to our research. And a lot of people switch from associate positions and full-time to become self-proprietors and to be the entrepreneurs. But this is a group of people that are not ready to jump in owning a practice, so they want to own their own business, and which seems like relief is one of the avenues that a lot of veterinarians choose. So we need to adapt to that environment.
Totally agree. I have some friends that are veterinarians that love doing relief, make good money at it, love the freedom. So it certainly is a trend here. We've got folks chiming in from Florida. I've got New York. I've got California. So keep chiming in, letting us know where you're at. So Sarah, you're in the thick of this, right? Tell us about your challenges. How are you doing this? How are you managing the relief veterinarians in your practice network?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with, there certainly have been quite a few challenges, especially when you're dealing with multiple clinics, right? We don't just have one, we have multiple clinics in multiple different areas. So juggling, a bunch of different relief veterinarians, the communication between all those relief veterinarians, email threads back and forth talking about scheduling, and then, 5 business days go by and then you finally hear back, or I don't get back to them immediately because, there's so much on my plate as well, that it's just so difficult. And that's just even the scheduling and communication piece. Beyond that, the pay. The amount of time that I spent doing manual, payments for relief veterinarians, taking up so much time waiting for them to submit invoices. Then either I'd process that payment myself or then pass over to finance who does it. And it's just this kind of, again, long process when you want it to be something very quick and easy so that your relief veterinarian gets paid and that's off your plate as well. So yeah, the scheduling, communication, pay were big challenges, like I said, across multiple clinics as well. You're juggling a bunch of different relief veterinarians, and also that incentive piece, right? A lot of relief veterinarians sometimes, come into your practice and they're getting paid regardless. So maybe they don't want to, push to see more things where, we want to see as many patients as we can. We want to help all the patients. So that piece too is trying to think outside the box and say, hey, is there a production factor that we can do with relief veterinarians? And Dr. Ivan will get to that shortly, I think. But yeah, and those are kind of the big pain points that we have experienced over the past couple of years here with Galaxy.
Okay, makes sense. And folks, if you have questions, please ask them in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat for us. Dr. Ciccolini leads us to you. Is there a solution? What is the solution for these challenges that Sarah has just spoken about?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce and Sarah. We really learned a lot by working with Sarah and her team, and we heard about these pain points of just how much time and effort goes into managing this network of relief veterinarians that they built on their own. And like Sarah mentioned, getting them scheduled, getting those invoices in a timely fashion, getting them paid. And we really looked at Serenity Vet and we saw, well, we already have this solution built into the platform. Like that's how the whole system works. It was working as a marketplace. All those processes were built in. And the only thing that was kind of holding us back from being able to fix that for them was the fee structure. Why would a clinic want to add in 20%, on top of what they're already paying the vet for a relief vet that they've cultivated and found and built this relationship with? And so we went ahead and built this network feature where it essentially allows the clinic for a small monthly fee to invite whatever relief vets they already use, bring them onto the platform, and it simplifies that entire process and automates a lot of it and saves a ton of time.
Okay, great. And so you're really establishing your own network there is what you're doing with the veterinarians that you're already working with and then potential others. Is that how it works?
It is. So you still have access to what we call like Serenity Vet Network veterinarians. So say like your network of 3, 4, 5 veterinarians aren't available for a shift, you can still post that out to the marketplace and hopefully get someone else to fill that for you. So you get the kind of the best of both worlds that way.
Thank you. And Dr. Zach, help us out with profitability. So I'm hearing what everybody's saying. I'm hearing what Sarah's saying, what Dr. Ciccolini's saying. I may hire somebody and it's not profitable for a shift. How do I know that? How is there a tool available for that?
So the issue that we ran into when hiring relief veterinarian was how do you understand what you can pay? Because usually the rate for the veterinarians comes from sort of what is in the region, what is common. I've been doing relief for 20 plus years myself, and but what is the right price? And we started using some platforms that are out there, and then in some of them they dictate the price, how much you should pay. But in reality, every practice is different. I might be running one man show sort of operation, or I might have a multi-specialty clinic, and our revenues are different. Our profits are different. So there's really the most sort of eye opener was when I contacted a medical director from one of our practices in Danville, and I said, "What can you afford? Do you know actually mathematically calculated what can your business afford?" And he has said, "I have no clue. We're paying $850 to $1,000 for a locum, but what can clinic afford?" So this is where we started to brainstorm and work with Andrew's team on how do we calculate. Based on the clinic's financials, what is actually the range that you can pay based on your profitability, how much you pay your own veterinarians that are employees, what is the increase potentially range because you don't pay certain taxes or pension plan and benefits to relief veterinarians. So there's a certain window, and also it's the willingness to pay factor. You're probably not willing to pay more than $5-7 for a burger, but if you're on the transatlantic flight, you all of a sudden they're willing to pay $25 for that. So if you have someone dropped out tomorrow who was scheduled, and you're going to lose clients that are scheduled, all the business, so you probably are willing to pay a little more. So finding that window specifically for your financials is sort of the task that Andrew and I brainstorm about, and to bring that as a feature to Serenity.
Yeah, and you've come up with something really cool here and certainly needed, and that's why we're doing this webinar. Dr. Ciccolini, comment on rates. I believe that there's a lot of fixed rates out there where there's not a lot of flexibility for these platforms that help veterinary practices. Share with us a little bit of your insights on that area.
Yeah, a lot of the platforms, different relief companies kind of decide the pay for you. They might give you a range. But another aspect of it is there's not a lot of, it's not very clear what all the fees are going to. It doesn't necessarily break down like, you're paying this set amount, say $1,200 for a shift, and $1,000 is going to the vet, and 100 is going to this, and 100 is going to that. That's not really visible. Whereas on Serenity Vet, we break down the fee structure for you on every shift that you post. You can see exactly where all those costs are going to.
Okay, great. It looks like we have some others chiming in here from Florida, Robert, and I've got Melissa. Melissa, I'm not sure where you're from, but welcome to the call. Dr. Zach or Sarah, let's talk about a system to incentivize relief veterinarians. Is it just flat pay with Serenity Vet, or how does it work?
I can jump in because this was my sort of pain point when I worked as a relief vet. I've done emergency for the most part of my career. And when you're an emergency vet, there's two kind of states that you're on your shifts that you exist. One is they don't have enough patients coming through the door. and you're thinking, how can they afford paying my rate? The other one is I had a splenectomy, GDV, and another 2 surgeries, and I'm cranking, and I'm there a couple hours after, and I'm thinking I should be paid more. If I worked for someone full time, I would be making production pay, and that is sort of the exciting thing that, again, sort of Andrew brought to life is essentially encourage production during the specifically for ER and urgent care. That's the most common setting. So in Serenity, they implemented a feature where you essentially, just like for your full-time employees, you put the production rate, and if it exceeds what you made on production, your hourly rate, then you're paid what the greater sum is. And for us, it was interesting because my first reaction to it was, well, we're going to be paying much more than we would originally schedule and predict and budget for it. But essentially, the more you make on production, just like your full-time employees, you should embrace that, because that's the total revenue that this percentage is calculated from. So what we found with that feature in our region here in Maritimes or Atlantic Canada, we actually have all the locums in the region. There's not many of them. We know all of them, but they all prefer our shifts first, because they know that they can by hourly rate maybe paid $1,500 or something like that, but on the production they were making $3,000 plus based on the shift. So that was a great motivation from monetary perspective for them, and certainly solved the problem that I felt when I was a relief veterinarian myself.
And Serenity Vet does that all for the practice. There's no like Excel spreadsheets needed. It does it for you. Okay.
Now at the end, you just entered the total production for the vet, number of patients. It calculates it for you, compares to the rate, and then pays the greater one to the vet.
Easy peasy. Easy peasy. As the gal that enters that, love it.
And I just want to add, Dr. Zach said it, but I just really want to emphasize that we still guarantee that base pay for relief vets, because it's not really fair to ask relief vet to take on that risk of, it's kind of on the clinic to ensure that the caseload is there for them. So they can really only benefit from it, but they can't lose out. And that's a really key feature that we heard from relief vets, that they really wouldn't be open to accepting that pay structure unless they were guaranteed that base rate.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Great comment. Sarah, I saw a lot of shaking heads there, which I love. Tell us what's changed since you moved to what I'll call a centralized system for managing your relief veterinarians. What's changed there, and how has it helped your team, or has it helped your team?
Well, let's start with, as you brought up, no more Excel sheets. So, again, just entering so simply, again, what that vet brought in and the number of patients seen. And it's so cool. It calculates, all of that just easy peasy for you. And then you just press a button to finalize. And then Serenity takes care of that payment too, which, as I brought it before, that was such a big pain point for me, is that payment side of having relief veterinarians. Again, the invoice is coming in and then processing. And then I'm like, did this one get paid? And, all of that. And then they're like, hey, you didn't pay me this one from June. And it's like, oh my God, I got lost with finance. And it's just not a great system at all. So again, with Serenity, just so easy. That has taken, I can't even tell you the amount of time that I get back in my day from, again, just simply entering numbers and pressing finalize in Serenity. Again, that communication piece and, having vets sign up for shifts easily there has saved a lot of time too. I rarely have those long email threads anymore, as that's all just simply done in Serenity. So again, just a lot of those manual processes have been taken away. And again, somebody who has, multiple clinics on the go, multiple people, multiple things, it really helps to just streamline stuff and give me time back in the day that I so desperately need.
Yeah, that's great. This is one of those things, like, I'm like, why didn't somebody think of this before? And I'm glad this team has really thought about it. Dr. Ciccolini, let's switch gears to this AI-powered predictability score. Now, we all talk about AI a lot, right? You go to any veterinary conference, it's AI. But tell us how this helps relief veterinarians and the practices that they're working for.
Yeah, it's really one part of a 3-part tool that we've built, and we kind of started touching on it in regards to profitability. And so there's kind of 3 different features that play together to help a clinic kind of understand what they can afford. And so the first one, we talked about profitability. So they put in kind of their basic financial information for the clinic, and each shift that they're posting, it kind of gives them a range of what they can afford based on historical data. So kind of give you like a typical maintaining 20% profitability versus like, you know what, I really need this shift filled. If I just want to break even, here's what I could afford to pay. And that actually ends up benefiting relief vets as well, because what we found is a lot of clinics see like, oh, I can actually afford to pay a little more than I thought I could once they see the data. When they don't have the data, they tend to be more conservative. So that's been a big benefit. And then the two other features, one of which is the AI that comes in, is we always give like a average rate in the area. So you kind of have a reference point to start with of, you know, what other clinics are paying, so you can maintain compatibility. And then the AI tool comes in at the end once you kind of put in all your information. This is the amount I'm offering. This is the day of the week I want. You know, I need 10 to midnight urgent care shift. And the AI tool will take in all those factors and give you a score as to how likely that shift is going to be filled. And so it takes in a lot of different data, historical data, availability of relief vets on the platform, financial information, what you're actually asking them to do, and just helps guide you to know like how likely you are to get it filled, and you can make adjustments to improve your predictability there.
So question, Sarah, on that topic, and that makes a lot of sense, Dr. Ciccolini. Thank you. Does that give you a tool? I know, I think your boss is on the phone here, or on the call here. Does that give you a tool to go to whoever your manager is and say, I am paying more for this shift because of X? Does that help you as a manager?
Absolutely. Because again, it's you know, it's able to justify it a little bit rather than, hey, I can't get anybody, but I don't really have a reason for that. And, you know, then we just have to bump it up because of XYZ. Canada over here. Yeah, so again, that helps us tremendously to be able to say, hey, this is what this is telling me. This is this predictability. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And again, the boss man over here will say, okay. And
Great.
makes everyone easier. Yeah.
So we have a question coming in from Melissa. So Serenity is like Rue, or how is it different? That's a great question, Melissa. So whoever wants to answer that one.
Yeah, I can start, and feel free to chime in, but we get that question a lot. And I think at face value, people see a lot of similarities just in terms of how like the marketplace works and how they can apply for shifts. But some of the key differences are certainly on the clinic side. They have a lot more autonomy in terms of what they can offer. We have those additional tools we just talked about to help guide them. And then the network feature is completely unique in that as a relief veterinarian, you can create a relationship with a clinic, and there's no more of those kind of service fees associated with the shift that cause a lot of frustration for people. So we can help make relief vet more competitive and affordable for relief vets and the clinic. And another really key feature is we don't have any contracts and there's no placement fees. So that's a big issue we ran into, that we heard from customers, that, you know, relief vets are a lot of times working relief part-time, thinking about going back to full-time work. And so they want to try out some different clinics. And then when they're using these different platforms, the clinic ends up having to pay a really hefty fee if they want to hire that person. Yeah. And so it was a deterrent for making that connection. And it was taking money away from the relief vet as well, because, okay, I got to pay this platform and now I can't afford to give you, say, like a signing bonus because of it. And so that was a big pain point that caused people to avoid using them altogether. So we just eliminated that. If a clinic makes a connection with a relief vet and they like each other and they want to, you know, end up getting married, we're, you know, just like Tinder, we don't charge a fee for that. You can leave the platform and that's totally fine.
Just like dating apps. Okay, makes a lot of sense. That's a good analogy. Thank you. Sarah and Dr. Zach, you manage a hospital network, and I can see that there's a lot of independent practices on the webinar here, but there's also some group practice leaders. Can we talk about that? And does it work with a network, or is this just based on one practice? Like, do I have to go from practice to practice? Tell us how you manage that.
So the main thing that I like is that when we look at the month end of every hospital and then combined, we really could dial in the spend for relief veterinarians, and we can now see which veterinarians are more effective, because what the relief veterinarian hiring became is a great expense. A lot of practices and networks looking at hiring relief as the expense that they have to manage. Since starting with Serenity, we're looking at more as a profit center, and how can we optimize to have veterinarians that are actually bringing greater profit. And it made significant difference in our Houston location once we realized that, and data that we saw through Serenity, we were able to shave off $17,000 per month of expenses. It was very significant change, and simply by recognizing which veterinarians are productive and which are not, because relief is a relief, and you can have a really great relationship with them, with the clients, and there's great report from the team, for example. But as a business, and pragmatically looking at the business as well, we now can see what is the average check transaction that each veterinarian brings, and then how we can decide which veterinarian to choose from the pool of the veterinarians that we have. And unfortunately, there is a correlation. The more great feedback veterinarians get, the less profitable it is to hire them. And this is, I'm sure that some veterinarians will get angry with me for this, but I'm talking out of the business sense only. The clients that find the most rapport with the veterinarians that find sort of that recognition and the best reviews are those that discount a lot and that don't bring significant profitability. There's a balance in that. And from, again, pragmatic business owner mind, I can look at this and say that we can now strategically schedule our relief.
So to translate that, and I have a friend, and she's a top performer. So, and she's relieved. So she would then kind of appear at the top of the list, that she's a top performer. People like her. Hey, I'm going to hire her. It may be a little bit more, but I know that because this veterinarian really goes out and does a great job, that they come to the top of the list. So I could choose that individual over another. Is that how it works?
Yeah, and it helps with the calculations of how productive that veterinarian is.
Okay, let's talk about coverage. So Sarah, has using Serenity helped you with coverage? Do you still have those gaps in the schedule, or what are you finding now that you've been using it for a while?
What's actually interesting, and this is probably opposite of what everybody else does, maybe not, but we prioritize our relief veterinarians. So we actually schedule them first at all of our hospitals. And then we fill in the gaps with our full-time veterinarians. So Serenity helps with that too. Again, people, as Dr. Ivan mentioned earlier, we have a lot of relief veterinarians that aren't doing shifts at any other hospitals anymore because they like the way, number one, how our hospitals operate. They like using Serenity. They like the production piece. So there's so many things that we're offering that other hospitals just simply aren't. So they come to us and they're like, what shifts do you have for me in December? Or, hey, here's quick, can I get my availability there? So we actually start with that and then fill in around them. So absolutely, we have very little coverage gaps now after using Serenity. Again, makes our lives easier. And we've had fantastic feedback from all of our relief veterinarians since we've made that switch to it. Of course, there's always a little pain points adding, a new software to something, but the Serenity team has been fantastic supporting the veterinarians when they get on it as well. And yeah, so it's kind of cool. So something to think about, all you guys on here, is, hey, maybe we prioritize those relief first and give them the shifts they need.
There you go. Thank you. I'm sure everybody appreciated that on the call. Dr. Ciccolini, let's talk about the enterprise solution. I mentioned that there were some group leaders on this call also. Have you built this for a group of practices? We brushed on that earlier, but share with us the enterprise solution for those folks that are managing 2, 3, 4, or maybe a couple of hundred practices.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot so far in kind of what we need for the enterprise solution, and that's going to be kind of our next phase, is building better solutions for multi-practice groups. And so, like, a couple of things that we'll need is a single sign-on for multiple different practices, some different features that will allow different user level access So a clinic can potentially request a shift while, the regional leadership might be able to access the metric data and kind of see the profitability of the clinic. If a consolidator or a group of practices wanted to kind of set some limits in terms of how much they can pay relief vets, we really want to build that into the platform. So making sure that they're not overpaying relief and losing money. So around that profitability, setting some guardrails for clinics would be a feature. The list could go on. There's a lot of different things that we're working on and looking for additional partners that want to help us build the system way that they need it to help them manage relief in a profitable way.
So if I'm in a group, what I'm hearing you say is that HQ, the home office, could have visibility and look, but also still allow that practice to independently run within guardrails. Is that how it works?
Yeah, and we've really seen kind of two different approaches to managing relief for our larger corporate groups. Some like to manage it centrally, where they're inputting all of the relief shifts for all their hospitals and doing all their approving, and we can certainly have some features for that type of approach. And then we see others where they really just want some oversight and guardrails, but keep it down at the lowest level possible, which they both have their pros and cons. I'm not here to decide which is the right way. We're just here to build those tools to make that process easier for them.
All right, thank you. We have a question from Robert here for the group. Robert says that some recent articles and surveys suggest that hospital resistance to relief, plus more veterinarians are choosing relief, and this may be causing the pace of relief pay to slow or plateau. What are my three experts here seeing in the market when it comes to relief pay and this, I guess I'll call it hospital resistance?
I can kind of take part of this question. So I'm in quite a few groups where relief veterinarians hang out, and there's overarching kind of conversations going on that the really high pay rate shifts are less and less available. So it becomes more competitive. And this is where I think what Serenity have done that is helping us a lot is they gave more tools for the clinic and for the groups to essentially understand how to manage this strategically, not sort of, oh my God, tomorrow we need a vet, we can't find anybody we'll hire for any amount of money. So I think that with the market shift that Robert is describing there, which is clearly there is also more leverage on the clinic side, how they choose who's going to be working for them. And I think that the Serenity vet is kind of catching that kind of macro situation in our industry and helping the clinics to gain more control, but also with veterinarians, helping veterinarians who shine more, not just based on the rating, how much they smile or how team like them, but actually calculated approach at this veterinarian is going to be productive for my business. Therefore, I am willing to pay more to them through instruments like production pay, understanding my rate of pay that I can afford, and then to be competitive to hire at a higher rate. So I would say that yes to the comment, but also using Serenity helps you to get on with this new economy and hire for the high pay productive veterinarians.
Okay, any additional comments on Robert's questions? Anything to add, Sarah, Dr. Ciccolini?
I would just second that we've definitely seen a plateauing of the prices paid to relief vets, and it's a lot more competitive. So that's where building these really valuable relationships through like a network feature like Serenity Vet has a lot of value, because you can kind of create a more intimate relationship and show your value a little bit easier and make yourself more competitive for relief shifts.
Okay, very good. Kind of tangential to what you're talking about, but I recall I was at a conference, I think it was AHACon in the past year and a half, and I spoke to a practice and they had been without a veterinarian for 10 months, couldn't hire one, and I don't understand why, what was not bringing any relief in. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss to a practice by their the lack of willingness to bring in relief, or, there's probably a core problem there, right? Probably the pay isn't quite in line with everything, but just something that frustrates me, frankly, when I see these positions open for such a long time and you have so many options out there. Let's switch gears here and talk about for the veterinary clinics that are watching here, for those on the phone, talk about assessing relief staffing performance. We talked about this a little earlier, but Sarah, are there key metrics that you look at when you're in Serenity? Is there something that you can easily look at to determine who you're going to bring?
As Ivan, pardon me, Dr. Zach mentioned earlier, really that average that average check transaction is a great piece that we always look at. And it's something that we monitor with our full-time doctors on a regular basis. And I think that it's important to also monitor that with our relief veterinarians. So I think that's such a big piece there that is calculated, as we said, when we put in how many patients that veterinarian saw that day and what they brought in, that automatically calculates it for you. And then we're able to look at that data. We look at it in weekly meetings as well with our full-time veterinarians and with our relief veterinarians. And that helps us say, all right, as Ivan said, this person's warm and fuzzy and we love them, but this person is also warm and fuzzy, but also brings in some more money. So those are those ones that we're going to monitor there. And likely if we have the option between the two, we'll go to the warm and fuzzy one plus the one that grinds and brings in some more cases. And Ivan, feel free to jump in if there's anything I missed there.
Exactly that. So the average check transaction I believe is the best measure of productivity for veterinarians. It's not the revenue. And I hate when, some groups, when they have this management conversation with veterinarians, say you should breed more. I was just talking to someone working for a big consolidator here in Canada, and in their day-to-day practice or their review once a month, they sit down and say you should be bringing more than $3,000 per day. Veterinarians don't control how many cases come through the door, especially in this economic environment when there's less patients. They're not in charge of revenue. It's the organization in charge of marketing to bring cases to the veterinarian. But what is more objective is that average check transaction. So it's essentially the total revenue brought by the veterinarian divided by the number of cases. So if you brought in $10,000, you've seen 20 patients, you're a $500 average check transaction. And that's the measure that we monitor on relief vets. We monitor that, like Sarah said, on our in-house veterinarians. And that's what Andrew took on as a feature to basically transpire in Serenity Vet, because reviews are great, but I find that no veterinarian will say, I loved working in your clinic, 3 stars. It's just not going to be genuine, because if you want to continue working here, you will always give 5 stars. But this objective measure of productivity is something that Serenity is building in right now. And I love that, because when I have 3 candidates that applied for a shift, I can pick it based on the productivity.
Great comment. Thank you. Just a comment I want to make for Sarah and Dr. Zach. Your practices are not just in Canada, they are in the US. And also, does Serenity have customers in the United States? I want to make sure that we have a lot of people from the US on the call, and I want to make sure that they come across that this isn't not that the Canadian market's that much different than the US, but this is not a Canada-centric sort of platform.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, we got it both, all over. Well, North America.
All over the place. Okay, great. And I also want to dig into, and sorry to put you all on the spot on this one, but I want to dig into this comment I brought up earlier, where I had this conversation with a veterinarian where they weren't bringing in relief and they were just letting that position sit open. And I've been doing this a long time, over 30 years, and I've heard that time and time again. Why is that, and how do we fix that? That just seems like a problem where somebody's not seeing a business opportunity to drive revenue and really to care for more pets.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be overwhelming to think about trying to get and manage relief vets. And that's why, Serenity Vet provides a solution to make that a little bit easier. But I also just want to hit on the point of why it's such a bad idea to do that is because if you're looking to hire on another vet and it takes you 10 months and you're not having someone in your practice building that caseload in advance, then it takes even longer for that new vet you bring on to actually bring to be profitable for you. because the caseload isn't there. And so it's going to take a long time. Whereas if you're using relief vets, even if it's not the equivalent of full time, but say like 20 hours of a full-time vet that you wanted to bring on, they're helping maintain your caseload and even grow it in advance of that person starting. And then when they start, you can shift that caseload over to them, and they can be successful from a much earlier start point, instead of just going 10 months without a vet, losing a lot of revenue, and then now they're on board and they're continuing to not make a profit for you for another 6 months. So it's a really good way to kind of plan in advance of expanding your staff.
A good point. And I think in that AVMA economic report, it reported on the numbers and production of value per veterinarian. So if you have a position that's open for 10 months or a year, you're leaving $400,000 or $500,000 just on the table, which is pretty frustrating, right? And let's kind of morph into the next question. These practices that view relief only as emergency situations. And there's a lot of them out there where it's just for an emergency. Is that the correct thinking here in this time, in this day and age, with everything we're dealing with? What's everybody's thoughts?
Well, I think I'll jump in for a second. Sorry. Well, and I did already kind of mention this, but I think, as I said, is we are thinking about things differently, that we're not using our relief vets as just emergency situations. We're almost giving them priority to the shifts that they want. Of course, making sure our full-time vets get their hours and shifts as well, of course. But beyond that, it's like, hey, you're great in our clinic. Our team loves you. You bring in cases. You're productive. All these things. What shifts do you need this month? What do you want this month? And happily, again, starting with your relief rather than using them as emergent. Again, that helps build that really great relationship with them too. As I said, a lot of our relief veterinarians aren't doing shifts with any other clinics now. They're just are reserving all of their time for us and are very much available because we prioritize them. We make things so easy for them. So I think that's, again, shifting that mindset to not only using it as emergent, but actually having it as part of your regular, operation. And go ahead, Ivan.
Yeah, I want to
Do you
on that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Bruce. Just sort of that point that we converted this emergency into actual strategy. I was looking at a couple networks. So I think Urgent Vet, they have quite robust locum or relief vet management because a lot of their locations depend on that. And I was really afraid in our urgent care network because of that. And we're specifically built in a way that we have 2 full-time veterinarians. They're doing 3 shifts per week. They're 12 hours. So we essentially have 2 vets doing 3 and 3. We always have 1 shift left. So we had to come up with a strategy where that 1 shift every single week is filled in by a relief veterinarian. And then now in certain clinics that we have, I'm actually looking at that as a leading strategy because you're also saving money. Even though you think that you're paying sometimes more to a relief veterinarian, if you have chosen the person that is productive, bringing lots of revenue when you have cases coming in, and then you see they're always make that production, that means that they're more productive than potentially the full-time veterinarians that you had. So it could become very strategic rather than emergency, and we certainly, I think, cracked the code on that using this with Serenity as well.
That's a very different way of thinking about it. It is. I think we need to really take that to heart and consider it. Melissa has a question, and the question is, what's your advice on how to calculate the true cost per relief shift?
So the way that we build this formula with Andrew, and I'll leave a couple pieces out because it's secret sauce, but I'll give you the basic. So the basic part is, if you know what's your product profitability in the hospital. So let's say your hospital is making $2 million and you're 400,000 profitable. That's a 20% profitability. So you know that that's where you want to stay. And then you can calculate or look from your practice management system, what's the average amount of money brought in every day. Then if you know what is your labor cost, usually for DVMs, ours is 25 because we pay 25% production. It's very easy to determine and predict because we always pay them essentially within that. And then and then you add the hours that they're practicing and some other pieces that are secret sauce is you can also deduct the pension deposits that you're paying, the benefits plans. So you actually can go a little higher than your full-time employees because you're not paying those extra fees on their on the management of your internal staff. So all of those factors taken into play, you can determine what is your lowest amount that you can pay to stay in your profitability, and then anything from that to a zero profitability if you just need to fill in that shift, but you want to keep the lights on, people employed, and customers seen by someone. And that's how the range sort of is calculated. But you don't have to know that. Sign up for Serenity and it will just calculate it for you. Put those numbers in and it spits it every shift that you're booking. It will tell you what's your range.
All right, that's amazing. And it's amazing to me, once again, that this hasn't existed before this point. If we're doing good on time. So if everybody on the call has additional questions, this is your opportunity to ask our expert panelist here. Dr. Ciccolini, I want to switch to the future here. You've been working on this platform. Obviously, you're an expert in this category. You know what's going on in this category of relief. What do you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years? What should everybody know on this call? What should they be prepared for?
Yeah, I foresee just increasing competitiveness in the relief space. Shifts are going to get harder and harder. And so the relief vets that provide the most value are going to be the most successful. And we're going to see more of this like cultivation of relationships between the relief vet and clinics. So clinics, I think, are less and less going to be going out to like, I'll take anybody. I'm looking for someone new, and they're going to find their 2, 3, 4 favorites, and they're going to keep going back to them as much as they can, especially if they add more value. So, relief vets that can provide additional types of services will be much more competitive. I talk to a lot of relief vets, and I hear quite often, even those that offer surgery and dentistry, that they don't like doing that for relief because you just never really know walking into a clinic, like if it's a good place to do that at. Do they have good people running anesthesia? Do they have the equipment you need? And I totally understand that and agree with it. But as you start building these relationships and you're going back to the same clinic and you get a good feel for them, you can start offering those services and provide more value to the clinic, and they'll be open to using you more often.
All right, thank you. Great question. This is to each of you. What's one change that practices could make tomorrow to better leverage their relief work? And it can't be just, sign up for Serenity. We know that, right? But what is one change? We've got folks on the call here. They're here to learn. You're the experts. Each of you, what's one change that you would suggest that practices make? And we'd still have time for more questions. So everybody that's on the webinar, please ask another question if you'd like to.
I have one.
I can go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say it all comes down to relationships. The veterinary community is very big on relationships. It's a small community, and so really putting the effort into building that relationship with your relief vets, and building a consistent relationship with them, where you're bringing them in, whether that's once a month, every other month, whatever it is, can really pay off when that emergency does hit. Because if you need a vet tomorrow or in 2 days, but you haven't worked with a relief vet or talked to one in 6 months, it's going to be a lot harder for you to find them. So spending the effort up front on those relationships can pay off in the long term.
I like that. So building relationships, bringing people in before that emergency happens, getting to know them, getting them comfortable with your practice, then makes them more accessible to you when you need that individual there.
Yeah, and I know you said we're not supposed to sell Serenity Vet as a solution here, but what we've seen with Ivan and Sarah's team is because they've created this strong network, they have a much higher success rate at getting that last second fill for a relief vet than we've seen anywhere else.
Okay, and that's good data. Sarah, Dr. Zach, words of wisdom here.
Ivan, you go. You were eager to go. You're up.
Yeah, a couple more minutes to think about it. I think that one thing, and again, it's we had another webinar on it, and it's the production is controversial topic, but as an emergency or urgent care hospital, the best thing you can do, start paying based on production to your vets, base of their hourly rate, and then production. I mean, the way that we attracted all the vets in the area to ask us first about shifts, it was very, very surprising, pleasantly surprising that that particular feature attracted everybody to work for us. So just like you pay your veterinarians, pay based on production per shift to your relief network.
Thank you.
And I'm really going to retweet both of these guys here. And just as an example, recently we had a couple of emergency shifts at our Houston location, and immediately it was actually the same veterinarian that filled in for both of them immediately. You know, you contact her and she's like, absolutely no problem, because she has that relationship. She knows working with us is easy. She gets paid on time, all these like different things. So again, prioritizing and using them and having them in the hospital, building that relationship does help you out for those emergency situations rather than just leaving them for that last minute. Again, that production piece is that Ivan talked about. You know, prior to Serenity, there was one of our veterinarians that, you know, requested production. She was a top earner and she's bringing in tons and tons of cases. And we were like, I mean, sure, you're doing it. We see your what you're bringing in, how you're working. She sees tons and tons of stuff. So I do think that it is something that's newer out there and something everybody should do. Again, not selling Serenity, but for all my, you know, practice managers or people out there, stop doing things manually. There's so many easier ways. Like with Serenity, you will bring so much time back in your day. Again, not a sell, but just letting you know, as somebody who was doing all of this and like spending so much time, it really, truly does help. So that's my piece.
Thank you. Can we dig in and just for a moment? And then I do have another question from the attendees on the payment part. In my mind, that could be complex, right? You got to link bank accounts. You got to do this. You got to do that. Can you explain the setup of that? Because we're all really busy, right? And everybody's busy in a practice. How difficult is it to get that payment? I'll call it a payment gateway set up, but maybe that's not the right term.
Yeah, I can talk on that. It's actually pretty easy because there's so many third-party services that can be used, and so we just integrate with Stripe to manage all the payment processing. That way, it keeps your information secure and safe, and we don't necessarily have access to it. And it's just made it super simple. So the vet sets up, you know, where do they want the money to go to? The clinic sets up how they want to pay it. Click a couple buttons at the end of the shift, and it processes everything really pretty quickly. Usually within 24 to 48 hours, vets are receiving their money.
Nice. So it's kind of like Plaid or any of the other platforms where you link your bank account and you're ready to go. That's super. That's what I wanted to hear. A question we have from the audience is, can you explain and we've had more than one question about this, folks. Can you explain how the subscription works? Is it per clinic? Is it per veterinarian? And how much does it cost? Because it sounds great, but is it expensive?
If I can jump in a little bit of history on that, and Andrew, you can talk about the actual cost. But when we started implementing this in our clinics, I told Andrew there's no way we're going to pay 20% on top of the vets that we already know. That's who we want to manage. And we were piloting this platform, and that's where Andrew had a light bulb moment that they're solving a significant problem for us that nobody addressed before. It's basically bringing our own network and manage scheduling and payment processing. So that's where they went back sort of to their R&D shop and produced this subscription model where it's really bringing the network that you have. And there's tiered pricing, but Andrew, you can cover that if you want.
Yeah. So for the pricing, you can start, it is paid by the clinic monthly, and it's based on the number of vets they have in their network. And so you can start with one in-network vet for free. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of trial the system and set up that relationship and see how it works. And hopefully you see the value. And then the next tier is $299 per month, allows you to have up to 3 vets in your network. And then it goes up from there. And then of course, like, you know, a enterprise customer like corporate could certainly reach out to us, and there's, you know, custom pricing based on number of practices as well. but it starts at $299 for up to 3 vets.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have about 5 minutes left. So if anyone has an additional question, please put it in the chat and we'll answer that question. What I'd like to do now is ask each of you for closing comments and closing thoughts. And if another question pops in, I'll interrupt you and we'll answer the question. Who wants to go first?
Not all at once.
I can go.
You go.
Yeah, I think the main thing, being on so many sides of the industry in my career, I've been a relief for 20 years and I've built the clinics, I've helped to build the consolidators. I think I've been thinking about the whole relief a little bit differently before. I was thinking about it as that sort of fill in, we need someone tomorrow, but I think it could be done a little more strategic. And I really like that there are platforms like Serenity that allow you to manage all of it in one place. So your network, if you don't find someone, tap into their network and really put the process and automation into something that has been historically done very manually. So I think it's just opened my eyes into how you can manage that aspect of veterinary medicine a little better.
And do the practices have to sign up for the subscription model, or can they just use the network of veterinarians for relief? How does it work there?
Yeah, they don't have to sign up for the subscription. They can use it as a marketplace where they just post their shifts and have access to Serenity Vet's network of veterinarians for a service fee for each shift.
Okay, that's almost what I would call generation one, right? That's what's out there now. Generation one, where there's a network and you can hire out of the network. What my takeaway in listening to the three of you is this is a Gen 2. This is actually a relief management platform that helps you with both your outside network when you need it, but you also have your trusted network, the ones you want to use on a routine basis. So who's next on closing comments here? Sarah?
Me? I'm up. Well, again, I think for me, a lot of things, being, as Ivan said, being strategic about it, figuring out how much time you're taking out of your day to schedule, manage, pay, all of these things with these relief veterinarians, and seeing the value in having a service or a platform help do it for you. Because again, that just right there, for me, I'd pay some good money for that, and we do. For that, because again, you're so busy, and there's so much other things to be focusing on. So just always remembering, find that value, and sometimes that price tag is very much worth it when you think about that, all that time being spent when you're doing it, when you have so many other things to do. So for me, that's it. Again, as somebody that was doing all of that so manually, it's been such a huge help for me, and I couldn't recommend it more.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Ciccolini, you're the last up here.
Yeah, I'd like to bring it back to the beginning of this, where we talked about just the changes that are occurring in the marketplace. We're definitely going through some more challenging times. And so you need to start thinking differently about how to be successful. And just want to point out, Serenity Vet is, co-founded, run, intimately involved with veterinarians in building this platform. Because we understand the market and we want to help both sides. We want to help veterinarians and clinics. And going back to that relationship piece, it's a small community and we're here to really help the community, and that's our goal.
Great. So built by veterinarians for the veterinary community. Makes a lot of sense. I'd like to thank all three of you for your insights here. I'd like to thank our audience for the great questions and for participation all over US and Canada. And thank you again.